Hey guys, hope everybody's doing great. I've been missing in action, had a lot of family stuff happening, lots of other stuff happening. I don't know if I was burnt out or depressed or whatever, but life is life, things happen. And so, we slow down and then we pick back up again and then we continue forward. So that's why I kind of wanted to get back into the stream, and I wanted to talk about this idea of should you quit, should you keep going when learning to code, when learning web development. That's kind of like what I wanted to talk about today. Is it still worth it? Should you continue to hustle? What should you do? So that's what we're going to talk about. I see we have HD Global saying hello here. Hey, good to see you, my man. And then we have Lucky here. Oh, yes. And pretty much anything else you guys want to talk about. I actually got a desk. Believe it or not, all this time you see my videos, I've never had a desk in my room. It was hilarious. Like I had a drawer which had my clothes on it, my computer was on it, and that's what I used to do my work. And then finally I was like, you know what? I'm gonna get a desk. I'm gonna treat myself. Not that like I couldn't afford a desk. Just never got around to it because I like the idea of living like very simple. But I think like when you don't have a desk in your room, that's too simple. That's not the way to do it. And we have Tech Past 30. Hey, great to see you. Buenos noches. Yeah. Hey, good to see you here. So, we want to talk about, should we continue? I don't know if I should wear these headphones or not. I'll take them off. Should we continue to learn to code? Let me know if you guys been struggling with keeping motivation going. If you've been like, hey, I don't know if this is worth it. I've been studying for such a long time and I have no idea if I'm ever going to get a job, or is like, what am I like, is this ever going to work out? And a lot of times when we lose the motivation, we start feeling down on ourselves and we start to doubt ourselves, and we start to doubt the fact that the decisions that we were making, switching careers or learning to code, like depending where you guys are, it might have been the right choice. But as life kicks your butt, you get a little bit depressed. Maybe you're not sleeping enough. That's another thing I don't do. I actually quit coffee. Hilarious story. I'll tell you in a minute. But, you get beat down by life a little bit. And then you're like, maybe the things that I'm doing, maybe I should do something else. Maybe I should try another path. And let me know if you guys ever felt like this. Let me know if you ever had this struggle. And for me, like, it comes and goes in kind of like the weather. There's certain weeks I have in the year where I'm just so down. I think about how I'm a failure, how I didn't accomplish anything in life, how like all this other stuff happens, regardless what the reality is. But like, that's just how I feel. And sometimes like getting out of that rut is very difficult. And if you're trying to change your life, especially if you're looking to switch careers and you try to do something new, in that moment where you feel weak, you might realize that, hey, maybe this is not for me. And it probably is not even if it's for you or not. It's just like you're feeling so down that you just want to, like, you just don't have the confidence to continue because you feel like I'm doing all this work. I don't see any like benefit. I don't see, like, I still can't get a job. I still can't get to where I need to go. And so that's kind of like what I want to talk a little bit about on this stream, kind of to get back into the swing of things and also answer any questions you guys have. And let me say hello. What's up? How's it going? And so, yeah, talking about like, a lot of you guys like could probably see like sometimes I'll do my videos, which I haven't done videos outside of live streaming for a long time. And a lot of times, like, you probably see me making videos at night because I can't sleep, all like have crazy insomnia and all this other stuff. And, so I quit coffee. Did not realize that if you drink 8 to 9 cups of coffee for your past like 20 years, you're gonna have crazy withdrawals. So I literally felt like I was at a withdrawal clinic, cold sweats, crazy headaches. I still have a headache. It's been 4 days without coffee. I'm drinking tea now, decaffeinated tea, and that's kind of crazy. I didn't realize that could happen. But anyway, got a desk, kicked off coffee, and talk about this idea. Should we, quit coding? I'm just looking at the comments here. Yeah. New ambience is dope, bro. Let's go. Yeah, let's go. Let's do this. I mean, this is the benefit of a desk. The cool part about this desk, it actually adjusts. I could make it go up and down, left and right, I guess. And so now I'm organized. Now, like, if I have to show you something, like, hey, like, I'm like, check out this coding book I read. Like, I could reach it because it's on my desk. It's not on my drawer with like all this other stuff. So, yeah, let me know in the comments, like, have you guys like been struggling with difficulties? How's your motivation been learning to code? What you've been doing? I do want to talk to you guys, so don't be shy to talk in the comments. We got Chris saying hello here. What's up, Chris? How's your weekend going? It's going, it's going pretty good. I quit coffee, been hit with crazy withdrawal symptoms. And I am trying to organize my schedule in a way where I'm able to sleep. I've been really not sleeping enough for past couple of months, and really kind of starting to like not is like basically you guys need sleep. So, sleep is important. But anyway, enough about that. So let me know, guys, if you guys ever felt about quitting, stop, continue learning to code, like difficulties finding a job. And what I want to say to you guys, look, when I started, it was many years ago. I was making every mistake in the book that you could possibly make, learning stuff that was like irrelevant, trying to learn every programming language that you can. And no matter what I learned, I didn't know enough. It was not until I decided to just focus on JavaScript that things started to fall into place. And I would have never believed it myself that I was going to be able to get a job, until I finally was able to get a job. And that's kind of sometimes how it goes. You just have to put massive amounts of work and effort, trying to figure out what is the best path for you in your area to get to your job. For me, it was React and JavaScript. That was the best way and the fastest way. And I still think if you're new to web development and you want to go into web development, because there's other areas of programming like data science and other stuff, if you're looking to get into web development, the quickest path is still with React and JavaScript. You know what I mean? There's no, I feel that if you're just starting out, that's the best way to do it. And there's this girl that has been following my channel for a while, and she's tried to give me all the credit, but the credit goes to her because she's the one who's doing all the work. But she's just kind of been listening to some of my advice here, listening to some of you guys and what you guys say, and she's been kind of staying committed. She committed to learning React. She followed that path where I told her, look, you need to build a basic HTML and CSS website first, then you need to add some JavaScript into it. Then for your second project, you need to build a simple React application. And then for your third project, you want to build a more complex React application, could be like a bug tracker or a e-commerce store. And she did it. She went through the steps. She did the work. She created her resume site. She created her portfolio. She kept studying and she kept going. And she also struggled with this idea. Should she switch from React? I know at some point she was thinking of switching to doing C# or doing, PHP with WordPress. And, depending on what's popular in your area. But anyway, I just told her, stick to React, stick to JavaScript, because I know there are jobs there. And so she continued to push through. And a month ago, she got hired. She's been working for the past month as a React developer, which is amazing to me because she started in my Slack channel before I had Discord, and she was able to get a job. And that blew my mind because maybe I got lucky, but to see somebody who followed the path, followed the plan, and continued to do the work, she was able to get hired. And I do want her to come to the live stream and talk to us when she gets more acclimated at her role, at her job, to talk about that experience and what it has been. Because I think it's a great motivation to hear other people that have succeeded in doing something like, switching careers. She's a little bit older, not as old as I am, but, there's plenty of people that are in their mid-20s, late 20s, early 30s, mid-30s, late 30s who are looking to switch careers. And you have to understand that it is difficult, but it's definitely possible because there are jobs available. And we could talk a little bit more on that in just a moment. Let me take a look at the comments. Yeah, Lucky. WTF, just saw the title. What is going on? Yeah, we're just going to talk about the difficulties of like wanting to quit and give up. And I kind of wanted to make a title. It's not clickbaity because I do sometimes feel like I want to quit. I want to quit, like, you know, eating healthy. I want to quit doing this YouTube thing. I want to quit coding every day. And the reason sometimes you feel like that, it's not because you really want to quit, but you just feel overwhelmed because maybe you don't sleep enough, maybe like whatever, or maybe you just been going a string of bad luck like for a couple of weeks, and you know, it could be family, it could be like whatever, and you just feel like you had enough. And I just wanted to tell you this because like I feel this a lot of times. I know a lot of people feel this, so it's normal to feel like you want to give up and you want to quit. And the idea is to kind of be able to catch yourself and be like, look, like, yeah, I could quit, but what is the real reason I feel this way? And you know, sometimes it could be like you just feel that you just don't have enough success that you want, and you can't beat yourself up about it, because success, building, you know, learning to code, switching careers, whatever it is you're trying to do, it takes time. You know what I mean? It's not easy for anyone to do. And so you kind of have to be like, look, I'm a human being. I know that I'm not going to be perfect. It's okay if I make mistakes. And like, don't beat yourself up about it like everybody does, like I know I do, and be like, okay, let's get back on track. Let's get to do it. So I'm not quitting YouTube. I'm not quitting continuing to learn to code. I'm not quitting my job. I'm going to continue to do what I do. But at the same time, when these feelings come up, I want to tell you that it's not all like, you know, roses and like whatever plants. Well, I don't know what that expression is, but it's not all like la la land where everything is nice. Like everybody goes through moments where they just feel down, where they feel like, is this worth it? Should I continue? And I think out of all the different things you could do, I still believe that becoming a web developer in 2021, 2022, 2023, whatever, is still worth it, especially if you like it, because being a web developer literally saved my life. And let me, again, because I do want to talk to you with you guys today, so let me take a look at the comments. So Brian has some good comment here. Brian says to Lucky, he says, make it appear again. I'm only about a month and a half into coding, so I haven't really lost motivation yet. Currently working on making pages more responsive. Yeah, that's awesome. And you know what? That, like, when you're starting out something new, it's so good. And a lot of times you're not gonna lose motivation because things become boring or things become you know, hard or whatever. A lot of times you're gonna lose motivation when you've been doing it for a while, for like 3 months, 6 months, a year. I know I talked to some people, they've been trying to break into the career like 2 years and nothing is happening. And a lot of times that in itself, that long time, that wait, the expectation, like, it's like, why can't I get a job? Maybe am I not smart enough, or like whatever. A lot of times it starts to eat away at your confidence and it starts to break you down. But the fact of the matter is that's a normal process. And a lot of times what I would suggest to you guys is to have some sort of feedback cycle that we talked about, where you don't have like 3 months. Like 3 months would be at the most, but you never want to go like 6 months, 8 months, a year, 2 years, and not review the process that you're using to learn to code and to help you get a job. Because at the end of the day, if it's been a year and a half, 2 years, but you've been learning consistently and you're still not able to get a job, it's not the fact that you can't do it. It's the fact there's a step in your process that is not working for you. So you have to kind of take a look at the things that you're doing and figure out what are you missing and what do you need to do. And it could be like, you know, from your resume, from your portfolio projects. Maybe it's the type of portfolio projects. Maybe it's like, you know, I'm not trying to get out there and talk to recruiters. So there's so many moving parts that could prevent you from. And that's usually what eats your motivation, is that the more time you spend learning and you're not getting anywhere in terms of getting jobs, it starts to get very like non-motivating, very like it slowly starts to eat away at you. And that's a normal part, and that's why I have this YouTube channel, to remind you guys that the struggle is real, it's going to happen, and what you have to focus on is on the process that you're using. And if you're ever getting stuck, we have our Discord, you have the comment section here, and usually like if you want to have direct questions answered by me, the fastest way is obviously to do it in this live stream, and that's what I would recommend you guys do. And we have HD Global Hardcore Viewer. It's 4 a.m., silent environment, and your voice echoes in the house. Good vibes. You're amazing, Paul. Hey, HD Global, thank you, and I appreciate you being up at 4 a.m. I hope you woke up early rather than stayed up late. I know it's the weekend and we were able to sleep in, but I could totally understand not getting enough sleep. So that's what, the thing is when you're coding, is just that's how things are. Let me look at more comments here. So Lucky, maybe you should spend more time on freelancing if your job makes you tired. And freelancing is like an interesting topic, because the truth is, going into freelancing, it is way more difficult than getting a job. And even when you have a job, like I'm not tired from my job, I'm not depressed because of my job. It's sometimes like what I'm getting at is there could be other factors that you have in your life, like lack of sleep, lack of everything. I think maybe it could be your job that boring, but to me, like I'm super excited about coding. So like my job is always excited when I do it. Sometimes though, it's like getting to do the work is hard because certain things like happen in your life and you get like whatever depressed. And here I am like crying to you guys, complaining to you guys. But I do want to complain a little bit and cry to you guys, because I want you to know that nobody's like 100% like perfect. Like I don't know if you guys know David Goggins, who's the guy who's like, stay hard, motherfucker. Like he's that guy who's like basically just like tell your inner bitch to shut the hell up and like whatever, just do what you have to do. And it is true, but at the same time, you can't, we are not machines, we are human beings, and we will go through stages where we will not be motivated. And so we could talk about things you can do to help you stay motivated. One of the things that I found out, and you could let me know in the comments if this is something that's been for you. And HD Global, I am going to talk, would love to kind of talk to you a little bit about, I know you've been doing freelancing, but this idea of like sometimes when we lose the motivation and we start to not want to do work, we want to not eat healthy, we want to like, it just starts to interfere with like a lot of the parts of the life, and we don't even want to learn to code. And so one of the things that I started to do that really helps, I just want to put it out here if you ever suffer from like stuff like this, one of the most easiest way to fix your mind, it could either be go for a walk for like an hour, or even if you don't want to, or go for like a light jog. Getting that, I forgot what the chemical is, serotonin flowing through your blood in your head will help you a lot to get back on track. So, and so like HD Global, here we go. Like I like this. So we could keep this coming. And if you ever wanted to like jump in live and talk, I think it'll be cool. It doesn't have to be this stream, but at some later stream. He says, I'm a freelancer and enjoying. Everyone should start. So freelancing, to me, it's you're wearing many hats, because not only do you have to be able to provide the service, you also have to be able to do the accounting, the billing, the sales, and you're constantly chasing your client, you're constantly chasing that paycheck. So there's so much work that you have to do. So if you don't know how to code per se, that's 4 other things you have to add to your toolbox to be able to be a successful freelancer. So I've done a little bit of freelancing, and anybody who is able to be successful at freelancing and make a living, my hat goes out to them, because it is such a hard thing to do. And part of my freelancing, that's one of the things I'm doing. YouTube, I want to build a brand, I want to build a good enough following, and then I want to create some sort of business around coaching people to code and helping people switch careers. So that's going to be my freelancing part of business. But for coding, I found a happy medium. Instead of going fully freelance, what I do is I just do contract work. And for me, I like contract work the most because it is more flexible. And yeah, it's not, forever. Sometimes it's 6 months, sometimes it's a year. But to me, anything where I'm able to work from home on my own schedule. So like I might be productive at 3 a.m. in the morning. I want to have the freedom to work at 3 a.m. in the morning. Not saying that's what I do. Or a lot of times I like to, like I'll wake up in the morning, I'll start working and I just can't figure this thing out. And I realize that there's no sense of me running the clock, trying to sit in front of the desk, trying to make it work. And so I want to have a flexible enough schedule where I could like go do something else for like 4 hours and then come back with my mind refreshed and continue to do the work. So yeah, freelancing is hard. Contract work is kind of, to me, is my middle ground. But anybody starting out, trying to get and switch careers, the best way for me and advice that I give people is to get a job. Now, if you can't get a job and you tried really hard and there's just no company in your area that hiring you, then with that being said, then you have no choice but to try to create your own like company and do your own freelancing and get your own clients. But like I said, you need to be good at sales. You need to be good at talking to people. You need to be able to sell your services. That means you have to be able to talk about things in a way where you give people enough confidence to give you money. Like for instance, if I say, give me $100, you're going to be like, no. I'll be like, why not? So I have to be able to ask you for the $100 in a way that gives you enough confidence to give it to me. Like one of the biggest problems with freelancing, I would love to hear how HD Global handles it, is you'll start working on a project and when you complete it, the client doesn't want to pay you on time, or they don't want to pay you at all, and they just kind of like ghost you. And then now you have to try to catch them, try to follow them, try to get that money. And here we go. Look at some comments. Lucky says, walking early in the morning gonna improve your day 80% for sure. Like I would say 100% for sure. I've never went on a walk and then come back feeling more miserable. I think there's something about letting those endorphins going and in your blood that allows you to kind of be more productive. So I kind of made a habit, and this is something that helped me kind of get out of this slump that I was in, feeling like depressed, wanting to quit, is that I just said, you know what, Paul, you have to go walk in the evening before bed. And that's what I started doing. And little by little, my mood started getting better. And now I feel better. Now I realized that part of that reason wanting to quit, it wasn't me speaking. It was just my tiredness, like my, depression or whatever you want to call it, speaking through me. And so I had to figure out a way to kind of get my mood in a more positive state to be able to continue to go through this. Aiz Rahman, hey, great to see you, buddy. Thanks for joining the stream. Hanzala Mansour, I really want to be a full front-end web developer, but I only know HTML and CSS. So what I would say to you as an advice, you're definitely on the right track. And this is what I tell all the people that I talk to that ask me for my advice. You don't have to listen to me or take it. HTML and CSS, this is where you start. And you should be able to create a simple HTML, CSS website. Once you've created like a simple HTML, CSS website, and I'll try to find an example of what we did for our first project, and that's what I recommend everybody does, is to learn HTML and CSS first, and then after that you'll be able to start learning JavaScript. If you're looking to go into web development, JavaScript is a must. There's no other way around it. So let me pull up this site and I'll show you kind of like a simple project site that we built for. And you should be able to build something like that. And once you build like a simple HTML and CSS website, you can then start learning JavaScript. And so let me share my screen here. So here's a simple example. Build something like this, like a simple portfolio site. And this is all done with HTML, CSS. Make sure it's responsive. So if people, shrink the screen, like this adjusts to fit smaller screen devices. You see how the form now is all in one column. So you want to make sure you're able to make it responsive. And then as you get more comfortable, start learning JavaScript and add basic functionality with JavaScript. For instance, this button to go back to the top, it's using JavaScript here. And so start there. And once you learn JavaScript, go ahead and learn React. And I recommend, I literally, for anybody who's learning online, and you're looking to kind of get started, I like to recommend John Smigla courses first. Like there's many courses. If you already have courses, like you don't have to get more courses, but the ones that I recommend is, hold on, how do I see the rest of his courses? So start with his HTML and CSS tutorial project course. This, you learn the basics of HTML and CSS. The reason, look, it's 36 hours of content. The reason I started recommending his courses a lot, because he has so much practice in his courses that by the time you finish it, if you've done the work, you're gonna get there. So start with his HTML and CSS tutorial project course. After you finish that, jump to his JavaScript tutorial project course, complete it, 40 hours of content, that's a lot. And then do his React tutorial project. So those 3 courses I recommend first: his HTML and CSS, his JavaScript, and his React first. Don't worry about Node like until you get hired as a front-end developer. There's no reason trying to go full stack from the beginning, although he does make a good course. And so that's what I recommend. Complete those courses, and all you need is those 3 courses. Once you finish those 3 courses, what you got to start doing is you got to start building projects. You got to start doing the work, building your portfolio. You cannot get anywhere unless you're doing coding. And the best way I could recommend for you guys to code, I'll mention that in just a second, when it comes to doing projects. Let me look at the comments here. Yeah, that's 100%. I like Lucky's comment here and his encouragement. He says, Hanzela, it's not only HTML and CSS, you should be proud of yourself that you learned that. And 100%, you should be proud of yourself. Don't give up. Keep moving forward, because that's where everybody starts. Everybody starts with HTML and CSS. Everybody's got to keep moving forward, and you're going to get there. And 100%, now start learning the basics of JavaScript and improving your HTML and CSS skills. 100%. And hey, Logic Indy. Hi everyone, glad to see you back, Paul. Thanks, man. I'm glad to be back. Had a lot of stress that just caught up to me with a lot of family stuff and work and everything, and so I was like, you know what am I doing? You know, not that I was gonna quit, but I did feel like quitting. You know what I'm saying? So, and here Brian talking about almost done with John's HTML and CSS course. It's great. Yeah, it's an amazing course. At one point, I'm going to have him on, because I talked to him privately. I was like, look, listen, John, like there's so many people that are trying to get hired. They're trying to learn to code, but there's mistakes they're making because for some reason, certain people, it just takes forever and they quit. And I think it's because they don't have a good, proper, like, system for learning to code. So I wanted to ask John, like, what does he think the most important way to learn that people should follow that will help him to at least continue to stay on the path, get to where they're going? And you know, when you're learning to code, especially like I'm 41 years old, so I can't waste time. So when I work on projects, I do stuff in a way that, like, everything that I build it in a way where it's going to build on the previous thing that I built, and it's going to allow me to, you know, build more complex and bigger project, you know, which could be like a bug tracker or CMS, like content management system or what have you. And you can't build huge projects right away if you've never done any of the smaller components. But it's also, in my opinion, waste of time doing like little things or applications that don't make sense. For instance, like unless you're making games, this will make sense. But let's say you're not a game developer, like building a tic-tac-toe app with JavaScript makes no sense, because where are you ever going to use it in your bigger project? So what I always tell people is like, hey, you know that sometimes your application is going to have a modal, right? And I'll share my screen here for a second. You know, so build a modal, build a simple this is in React, but what I started doing is building, let me go back, building same components with JavaScript, and I don't think I finished it. Maybe I did. Let's see if it works. So yeah, the modal works, and then you click and it closes. So build a simple modal. This is using React. Yep, this is using React. But then what I also do is I try to build the same component with JavaScript. But what I'm saying here is build components that, like for instance, there's a lot of websites that have modals. So build a modal, and then eventually, you're like, what else do websites have? Maybe they have like little, don't worry about the CSS here. And this is using JavaScript. I made like a little thing, like little accordion here. It's a little, not pretty looking, but I was more focused on the functionality with JavaScript here that I wrote to make this happen and work. Anyway, the code is not important, but what I'm saying to you guys, that there's certain applications have accordion, so build an accordion, you know what I mean? Or you're working on stuff, it's like, hey, I need to have some sort of slider, so build a slider. And by the way, this slider is pretty cool. It's very simple, I was gonna say. So I built a little slider here. You could do random, and again, you work on building these smaller components that you then could put together into a big application where you could have a website which is going to have a modal. You've done that. You need a slider. You've done that. So start building things, and like I call that like my Lego approach. Basically, you build little Lego blocks of little components like input fields, sliders, modals, accordions, and then you're able to take those blocks, and you're able to build them into big, massive projects. And that's kind of what I would recommend for all of you guys who are looking to learn to code and not waste time. So like a lot of times when I build projects, they're all with goal in mind. I never make something unless it's something that I am able to reuse in other applications. So whenever you're looking to build something for your portfolio, you want to build something that is functional and something that is going to allow you to continue to build more complex applications. And that's kind of like what I would suggest you guys do. Then we have, let's see here. Hey, thanks for your advice. You earn a sub here. Hey man, thank you. I really appreciate. And again, this channel is all about helping you guys. And again, if you guys have questions, the best way to ask me is here on the stream, because you have me live here. Outside of that, it's going to our Discord, and I'll share our Discord link if you guys want to join. Also, if you like what we talk about, here, I say if you like, because I know some people won't like what I have to say, which is perfectly fine. But if you like to, kind of support the stream, why don't you smash the like button so more people could join us live, and so more people could be like, hey, let's see what this dude has to say, and we'll talk about it. But I'll put a link here in the bottom here for our Discord if you guys want to join. Always welcome. So anyway, yeah, let me know in the comments if what you guys struggling with, like what things kind of like, have you ever felt like quitting? What things have made you quit? Or what is your approach in terms of like dealing when you're feeling down, dealing when you're stuck? Like, how do you fight that? How do you get ahead of that? And, let me know. But anything you do, you need to understand that when it comes to learning to code, when it comes to like going to the gym, getting stronger, when it comes to, learning to play an instrument, the process and the steps are very similar in terms of you need to identify what you want to learn or what you want to do. And then you have to identify what technologies do you need to learn that are a must for you to get hired. And then you have to create a very, structured system that allows you to work through that curriculum that you found. And I use John Smigler course as an example. And you have to put every day in via the work. And so very important for you guys to understand that watching YouTube like you're watching me here is not important. And of course, like, I want you to watch my YouTube channel, but I'm being honest with you guys. It's sitting in front of the code editor and coding. That's what's very important. And you have to make sure that you're spending more time in front of your code editor coding and learning, reading that documentation, building stuff from scratch than you do anything else. Just like if I want to improve my deadlift, I'm going to make sure that I spend most amount of time practicing the deadlift. Or if I want to become better at playing the piano, I'm going to make sure that I'm actually playing the piano, right? That is the most important part. And a lot of us, and you could prove me wrong, that's perfectly fine. But I know in my case, when I first started out, a lot of times I realized that I was doing more tutorials than actually like coding on my own. And I know when you're starting out, you got to do tutorials. You got to, learn something before you could do something. But at the same time, after you complete like 3 courses, I mean, that's more than enough to be able to build something. You know what I mean? I have over like 400 Udemy courses, and obviously I wasted so much money. And my goal now is like, by the time that I'm dead, can I actually complete all those courses just out of principle of things? And what I started doing for a lot of courses now, I just like, I use them as if I'm reading a book. I'll just open my iPad and I'll just watch the lectures, because there's no way in hell I could finish them all, because 400 courses times some of them are 20, 30 hours. Are you kidding me? That's many, many years of my life left. But the point that I make this example for you guys is that you could do courses for the rest of your life and never get ahead, because you're not building stuff from scratch. Like, there's a reason I started my Tuesday night stream where it's all project oriented, and you see me build out a project, because I want to show you that you have to be putting in the work from scratch. I want to show you that what it looks like when someone's coding live without being prepared. There's a lot of like looking stuff up. There's a lot of mistakes. Sometimes you run into bugs, and this is something you guys have to engage in yourself. And the reason I started this Tuesday night stream is for 2 reasons. Number one, for me to learn how to be able to talk about coding live and be able to solve problems live while you guys are watching me. But another reason why I do the Tuesday night live stream is like this. I do it every Tuesday. I only do the work for that project during that live stream, so I don't work outside of that live stream on that project. And for you guys who are coming in and seeing, week 1, week 2, week 3, week 4, we made progress. We made some decent progress on that stream. And so what you guys get to see is this. If you consistently commit time to a thing and you do it day in, day out, or like I'm doing it every Tuesday, day in, day out, every Tuesday, week in, week out, I guess, and you are making progress. And so the reason I want to have that stream is because like 5 months from now, I want people to look at that stream and see how far we came. And by that time, we're going to have that at least initial project completed. And you guys are going to see like, wow, Paul started from nothing and he's been doing this stream every Tuesday and he completed this project. And you won't be able to tell me like, look, I don't know, like I've been learning to code on it like for 6 months and I still don't have a project to show for it. And I'll be like, look, I don't know what you're doing wrong, because on my live stream, we started once a week doing a little bit of work, and before you know it, we have a project done. And so a lot of people, they don't finish what they start with. And I've been there many, like for a lot of my projects aren't finished. And because I would start and then I would think I need to do something else. I start something else and you never finish. But the goal is for you guys to stay dedicated to finish one project for your portfolio, then move on to another project to your portfolio. It has to be finished and well presented and good looking project. You know what I mean? It has to have a good presentation. And if you're terrible at UI, using something like React with Bootstrap, or Bootstrap to help you make things look prettier, or using Tailwind, there's nothing wrong with that. And I could show you a project working with Tailwind if it's not broken. And like I'm going to show it to you as an example from the standpoint that I don't even remember where I put it. Did I call it Next.js? I don't remember. And yeah, and I'm gonna see if I could pull it up in here in a moment. But the point is, you need to have your applications look presentable and look professional. And sometimes, like, yeah, when you're learning HTML, CSS, definitely build your first project yourself. But then when you're building something that you're going to showcase, you know HTML, you know CSS, so use let's say you're not good at UI, use the power of Bootstrap, make it look nice. And I'll show you as an example here. I can't type and talk at the same time, so usually pulling stuff up on my computer takes forever. And oh my god, I have to fire up the backend for this application too. But anyway, it has to look presentable, it has to look good, because when you're building projects for your portfolio, you have to understand that those hiring managers, they have a certain expectations of the type of work they want to see. You know, they want to make sure that the things work. Like, this will be a fine example. You should never have your portfolio project that looks like this. You know, someone goes to your beautiful website and then they click, like, or they try to load it and it says, it is not able to find your project, WTF. So basically you want to make sure that stuff works. I know why I'm having that error, and that error is because I did not fire up my backend with Strappy that we're building. But once I bring it up, I'll show it to you guys. And here we go. Let me just answer some question. So Lucky here, do you think if Vue and Svelte join their forces would destroy React? Just seen this on Twitter. You know what? Like, people are gonna talk about everything and about anything. Here's the deal for you. Vue right now and Svelte, nobody's really building anything. In majority of the companies, no one's using it. They're maybe like out of 100, 20% will use Vue and Svelte, and 80% use React. So I still stick with React and try to become the best that I can in React, because this is where the jobs are, you know, especially where I'm living. And so yeah, there's some jobs with Vue, but there's not that many jobs with React. Here's the thing, like, let me play the devil's advocate. Let's say React just disappears and React is stupid and nobody wants to use it. Then I would learn Vue, you know, or Svelte, but I wouldn't learn Vue and Svelte unless it's like what top 80% of companies using. So I go to where the popularity is, and some programmers be like, Vue is better. It might be better, you know what I mean? But majority of the companies use React, and so I'm going to use React. Like, one of my friends, he did a lot of work with Angular, and then he's like, there's more jobs with React. Even though he's an amazing Angular developer, he went and learned React, and now he's an amazing React developer. But the thing that I want to say, go to, like, especially when you're starting out, go to where the popularity is, and go to where you know you're going to get a job, and only focus on those technologies if you want to get hired. Once you're hired, go ahead, learn Vue, learn what you want to do. There's nothing wrong with that. That's just my opinion, you know what I mean? But I go to what is popular, right? You know, like, you know, if Becca's the most popular girl, that's the one I'm going to try to date, you know, even though Rebecca could be better. But that's a bad example. Forget that example. That's a terrible example. I have weird examples sometimes, but the point is, that's what I would say. And on that point is, when I say learn JavaScript, learn React, is so you could get a job right now. Once you get a job, continue to become the best JavaScript developer you can. Understand JavaScript on a deeper level, because, you know, frameworks come and go, and there's going to be a point where React might not be the framework of choice. But because you're so good at JavaScript, learning another framework it's not going to be that difficult. And so to get hired, learn React with JavaScript. But once you get hired, kind of understand that you can't just sit and be like, I did it. No, you got to continue to become the best programmer and developer you can be. So whenever things change, you could change with the times and learn stuff. And here we go. When should I start learning about UX UI? I'm working on my band website, and I'm trying to figure out what I should do with the layout. So for layouts, what I do, instead of learning UX UI, because you gotta understand there's UX UI designers and there's the web developers. As a web developer, a UX UI person is going to present you with a mockup, and you're going to be able to, and you should be able to take that mockup and basically recreate it with HTML and CSS, JavaScript and React, what have you. But you're not going to be responsible creating the design and doing the UX research to figure out why this, heading is this way or why this font is this way. That's not your job as a developer. But when you're by yourself and you're working as a freelancer, right, you're going to have to figure that out. And then I'm going to show you in a second kind of my application, kind of how I solve that. But if you're not like the best UX UI person, what I do is I go to some place like themeforest.net, and I'll share my screen here, and like I'll type band website whatever in WordPress. I don't care, it doesn't matter like it's WordPress or not, but you could like music instrument shop, there's a bunch of different ideas. But basically what I'm saying is Google other band sites or other band sites in your area or like your competition or like whatever. But basically what I do, I'm going to use this one. This is like for a club or like whatever. That's not literally in a band. But what I do is I look for inspiration in other people's like websites, and I kind of see like how their layout is, and I take notes, you know what I mean? And so instead of kind of making this from scratch, I could be like, oh, I kind of like how they did this here. I like the colors. I like the thing. Oh, cool, they have like the video. Maybe I could have a video of my band here. And you start to get inspiration. And what you could do is you could find a bunch of other websites and like, okay, so that one, you save that one for later. Here's another one, Rock Band, WordPress. And again, I'm not looking at it because it's WordPress. I am looking at the fact that the layout, seeing how they did it, like what are the styles. And the fact of the matter here, if you find a theme which people are selling, it's popular, so the UX UI design they used is kind of cool. So here's another one, kind of like a template that you could follow for your band website. You could have like story of your band, you could have a video of your band, you could talk about all the different players in your band, people could follow them, links like this. You could talk about the music that you made that you want to sell or what have you. So you could basically, instead of creating UX UI from scratch, go and find themes that are already created. I'm not saying that you could buy a theme, but since you're looking to be a web developer, just based off how this looks, tweak it to your desire and your liking and write that code with HTML and CSS to apply for your project. And that's what I would say. And can you show projects you have in the Codepen? Yeah, I could show some projects I have in my Codepen. My Codepen is used for like trying stuff out and kind of prototyping. So I don't have any of my final design stuff here, but I will show you what I have, your work, I guess. And let me switch back here, and then I'll show you another website that I was working on and tell you why sometimes using Bootstrap or Tailwind or something like that. If you don't know Bootstrap, first of all, if you don't know CSS, don't use Bootstrap. Once you learn CSS and HTML, then you could use Bootstrap. Once you learn Bootstrap, then you could try Tailwind. And I'll talk about that in a second. But a lot of this stuff, like some of the stuff I'm still working on, like for instance, this is like a template, but I'll show you some things. So I showed a simple modal before. I have a couple different, I showed the slider before. So one example, like for instance, I needed to make like a drop down table kind of thing component. So I quickly mocked one up here to kind of how I want it to look. Like the colors are not the colors that it's going to use, and the font is not the same, but I kind of like just, okay, let me mock this up, let me figure this out. And this is something that later used at my work. Not exactly this look, but kind of what I learned from doing this mock-up is what I ended up implementing at my work. Here's another example here. Let me move forward here. Is I needed to make a timeline. So I went online and looked up some timelines. And so I ended up making this mock-up for a timeline which different users and different things that they could leave. So this is like HTML and CSS. So I kind of did the alpha mockup, wrote it here, and then I ended up, once I figured out how to do this stuff, I translated the HTML and CSS into JSX with React for the main project and application. Again, this is, I didn't build this. This is, I just saved it as an example. I'm only showing you like stuff that I built. And here's one which looks kind of like what the hell is this? And this is basically 3 different ways you could pass child elements in React, and they all return this array 1, 2, 3, 4. That's the data, and they all return the same data, but the mechanism of how they do it is different. And I'll scroll here. So this might be like, if you don't know React, this is going to be a little complex, but here's my favorite example to use because it allows you to create, I just called it children example so I could remember what it's associated to, but you could name this whatever. But basically this component allows you to list through items. So as we saw, 1, 2, 3, 4 here, it basically lists through this data array, and it could be an array of objects like blog posts or videos or whatever, and it will return this as a template. So whatever this child is, it could be, and again, it might not be making too much sense for you guys, but the way this component works is where I don't have to rewrite the logic for this list, and it will allow me to loop through whatever data I provide, and it will map through that data, and that data will be passed into this child component. And in order to make this work, if you know React, if I would use this normally as React children, it would not work. It would not return the data because you cannot pass props into it or have access to that. The way this works, and if you look at the children example here, is because what we're doing, we're getting the children and we're mapping through the children, and we're cloning that children element, and we're passing items into it, which is the props that I wanted to have. And so this allows me to have access to those props in my child component. So notice I'm able to take that prop that I passed in that component and return it here. And what's cool now, because of that, I could pass, let's say I have a blog element, I could pass it here, and let's say I have a video blog that I want to show, which is different. I could remove this and pass the video blog, so it becomes a very reusable component that allows me to put whatever template I like here, and it'll be able to render it exactly the way I like it. And here's other examples to do the same thing, and you could see you could create a component where you pass a prop through render prop, and here I'm passing that child component, and notice how, because I have this callback function, I have access to the props that I'm passing into it. Again, if this is too confusing, it's okay, but just this is me basically testing out different ways to render children where I have access to the props, and this is by far the best way that I like, because it's the cleanest way. Because if you look at this code, it just looks ugly. This looks ugly to me, where this, you just pass your data and pass what component you wanted to show. And so that's one thing I did. Let me know if this is boring for you guys to look at my Codepen. I'll show you a couple more things, and then I'll see if you guys want me to continue. And there's a bunch of like JavaScript stuff. Like this is basically where I kind of practice getting data from a API. So because it's very important to know how to get data, and right now the data is gone here because I kind of killed this server that I was using here. So this URL no longer exists, but basically I am using JavaScript here to using, let's see, endpoint, blah, 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 function. Yeah, we're using fetch. I wasn't sure if I was using Axios, but we're using fetch to hit this endpoint and return the data. And that used to work until I killed the endpoint. So as you could see, like the point of my Codepen is to test things out and be able to kind of like, you know, here I made the simple HTML and CSS JavaScript card, you know, which basically is this, and you could have like, you could click the heart to like and like. So I basically test out and prototype stuff, and when what I learned from here, or I'm like, hey, this card is done, like this is what I use in my main application. So I use my Codepen to basically prototype stuff. Let me see like another one. Like I'm kind of like this is with React creating check drop downs. If you've never done it before, it's similar to the way Material UI uses. And notice how this is the same component, and this is kind of cool, like this idea of building reusable components. So for instance, let me like scroll down where I call it. Yeah, so this is the same component, and you just pass different props. Like if you do with checkbox, then it'll show checkboxes. If not, it'll show, you know, kind of this type of selection if with checkbox. So basically that's what I do with Codepen. And again, this is probably too boring for you guys. So I'll show one more thing, but I use Codepen to prototype stuff. Here's like a cool one. I made one reusable component. So basically we have one input field here that is able to take different types of data, even though you might have different IDs and different stuff. So here we have search bar component that takes different data, and then you provide the search and the ID that you want, and then you're able to search. You see, you know, the information. And what's cool, this is a reusable component that I don't have to recode. I could basically just, you know, reuse it and pass the data and the search criteria that I want as props and have it work. So anyway, like, and I could show more later, because I'm sure this is not too exciting for you guys. But yeah, like definitely need to practice building stuff from scratch, need to work on making sure that you guys practicing programming. And from the standpoint, actually, let me go back to my Codepen here. I don't know if you guys see a, you know, especially in the stuff that I'm showing you, you guys see a pattern that I'm only building things that I could reuse in other bigger projects. Like for instance, you know, like I have lots of stuff. Like I've showed this before, but I needed to make for my project management app, I needed to make project cards, and so I made the HTML and CSS for that same app. I also needed to build a table, so I built a it's broken, Jesus Christ, that's got to fix the CSS, because I haven't made it responsive for smaller screens yet. But anyway, like I needed to build a table, so I built a table. And so the point is, as you could see, the purpose that I'm trying to tell you, when you're building things in like to learn when you're first starting out, yeah, it might be a simple modal, it might be a simple table like this, but build components that you know that you're gonna need to build, because that's what you're gonna be asked to build at work, or these are the items that are going to build your bigger portfolio. So don't build things that nobody's gonna ask you to build at work. That's the basic lesson here, because you don't wanna practice or waste time building things that are not, and I don't know if I was sharing my screen at that time, but here, let me come back here. So I built this table, you know, and like as a smaller component, I built this card component, because these card component, that table component, I could use in my next project, put it together, and have a bigger project. So basically build little modular building blocks that you could use to build your bigger applications. So build a navigation, build a slider, build a table, build a card, build a hero section, and then take all those things, put them together, and now you have a fully fleshed out complete project. And I know I wanted to show you the benefit of using things like Bootstrap or Tailwind, especially if you're not good at UX UI, or if you are kind of like a solo developer and you don't want to waste time trying to do everything from scratch. Like, it's okay to use the available technology and to like allow yourself to basically utilize the power of Bootstrap, and obviously only do so when you know HTML and CSS. People that try to learn Bootstrap without knowing HTML and CSS, I don't know what they're doing. It's kind of like shooting yourself in the foot. And so open recent, I'm trying to open something, but it's every time I speak and talk, community clients, Strap community 1 API, there you go. Every time I like try to type and speak, I kind of get lost. But I want to show you something that I was working on outside of our. So let me back up here. So I created this API with Strappy, and the reason I'd been talking about why everybody should use Strappy, especially when you're starting out with front end, is because it allows you to create an API which is very easy and it's very shareable, meaning that I could use this one API and power multiple apps. And so on our Tuesday night stream, we're building a React application, but I also created a Next.js application that uses the same API. And if I wanted to make a complementary iOS application, like using React Native, I would use the same API. And that's like the cool thing about Strappy. And if you're interested more about it, just let me know in the comments. Otherwise, like, there's no sense of me trying to talk about stuff that you guys not interested in. And let me just show you. Okay, so this is like what I'm telling you guys. If you're not, when you're building applications for your portfolio, you want to make sure that they look good. And if you made some ugly applications, by the way, I made some ugly applications. And when you're starting out, it's like I showed earlier, it's okay to find like, you know, some inspiration from sites like ThemeForest, or you could use something like Bootstrap, or something like, in this case, I used Tailwind. And by the way, like, this looks nice. Look how beautiful this looks in terms of like the layout. It's simple, it's clean, it looks professional. So this is something that I could, you know, put in my portfolio once it's finished. And by the way, all this is coming from our API with Strappy, which is like amazing. And it's the same API that's powering our React application that we're building on our Tuesday night stream. So if you want to kind of see what I'm doing with that, join us on Tuesday, 7 p.m. Central Time. But that's the point that I'm trying to make, is that you have to build stuff from scratch. If you don't build stuff from scratch, you're never going to get like hire ready. No tutorial is going to prep you for a job. No tutorial is going to prep you for a job. You want to take 3 to 5 tutorials at most, and after that stop, and then you want to start building, reading documentation. What tutorials prepare you? Two things. Number one is they prepare you to build your own stuff, and you want to start building it as fast as possible. And the second thing of tutorials do is they waste your time. Because after a while, you realize every tutorial you're taking, it's basically 80% of it is repetition of the last tutorial you took, especially if you're taking more, like, and you just continue going through tutorials. So for you guys, the biggest tip here is to make sure that you guys are building stuff from scratch. And here we go. Is there any sort of checklist for when you are employable? Yeah, I did go through one. I don't know if my friend sent me that. Let me look it up. because it's kind of one of those like things that is a moving target because there's a lot. But in the bare minimum, what I would say to you as a checklist, and we're going to use the standpoint of learning React, and that's how you're going to get your job. You're going to get hired as a React developer. Number one, learn HTML, CSS. Number two, learn JavaScript. With JavaScript, you need to learn the basics of the language. You need to be comfortable with doing asynchronous JavaScript. That means using promises or async await. And you need to be very good with JavaScript when it comes to working with arrays and arrays of objects, knowing like map, knowing filter, knowing like, you know, the most common like array methods, being familiar with what objects are. And, you know, then you move on to React. You want to learn React. You want to understand what React is, what it does, and why you would never want to create applications with vanilla JavaScript anymore because of React. There's many benefits of it. You need to know how to pass props or what props are. You need to know all the use effect hooks like use effect, use state. You need to know context API and how to manage state in a React application using context API. Don't worry about learning Redux at this point. And also be familiar with class-based component. You'll never write them anymore. Before, they used to be popular because we never had the new hooks that React has. So you needed to know class-based component because that's the only way to manage state or to keep state. But now with using hooks, you don't need to. But you need to be familiar with class components just to understand what they are. So if you ever run into one, it's not a surprise. And once you know that, you need to build 2 to 3 projects for your portfolio. The first project should be basic HTML and CSS and JavaScript just to kind of showcase that you know it. Second should be a basic React application, kind of like what I just showed here as an example, which is a simple, didn't mean to do that. It's a simple kind of website, but it's built with React and it's getting data from an API. You're able to kind of display blogs. But then this is still not enough. And finally, the third application is, and I had mine running before, I just broke it. I'm still working on it, but this is kind of what we're doing in our Tuesday night stream, is you need to build a complex application, which basically showcases that you understand how to work with basic CRUD application, like create, read, update, and delete. So you want to have an application that not only works with an API, and this is why we're using Strappy, because you need to know how to be able to consume an API. And from the front end, you should be able to know how to write code where you're able to, using fetch, to create, read, update, and delete. And this is kind of what we're doing in our application on Tuesday night stream. And that sounds like it's a lot, and that's just the tip of the iceberg. But if you don't have a complex application where there's a login screen, you're able to log in, there's a kind of way you have like private routing, meaning that if someone's not logged in, they can't see private information, or they can't add or delete the posts or information, whatever, update, unless they're logged in. So you need to be able to do stuff like that. And I had an example that I recently broke, so I have to fix it. I'm gonna check on that. Yeah, it's still broken. Yep, it's broken. But it's something we're building on our Tuesday night stream. If you kind of try to figure out the complexity of what you want to do for a project that is going to get you hired, that's one example. A very good example, and there's a great video. It's called Project to Rule Them All, and it talks about building a bug tracker. And let me see here. YouTube. It's by our friends at Coder Foundry. Project to Rule Them All. Okay, here we go. So he has this video, the one project to rule them all. And this is very important because he talks about in the scope of a bug tracker, and then they have a bug tracker demo video, which is great. You should check out both these videos. If you could build a bug tracker with your using technology, and I'm doing more of a project management app because bug trackers are done to death, but it's still an amazing project. You should do it. But like a good example would be building a bug tracker, building a project management. This is kind of what we're building on our Tuesday night stream. We're building a project management tool for developers to be able to share their work, keep track of the progress of their work, and also allow others to be able to comment on the work that they've done and upvote. And that's a lot of stuff that we have to do. So we're starting in small steps. So you could always check out the Tuesday night stream and at 7 Central Time. But yeah, check out these videos. I guess I could, where's the share button?
Oh, my name is
yes, show ads on my own channel. Great. Share. I'll copy this link here, share it with you guys so you could check it out. And then off that link, you could find the demo link from there. But it's a really good way to kind of get ahead of what you want to build. If you build a bug tracker that is functioning, what he describes in that video, you're going to get hired, because everything that you need to be able to do to make that application work is the same stuff you're going to be asked to do as a junior web developer. And that's kind of the reason why we're building this project on Tuesday stream, is because we're building it based on what I actually do at work. So I'm using technologies that I use at work, and I'm doing the things that I am asked to do at work. And so we're building things, even though it's a separate project, completely different, we're building something that is based on not like what I think you should learn, but based what I'm actually asked to do at work. And I think it's a great way to kind of figure out what should you learn to do as a junior developer. Well, why don't you learn to do the things they're going to ask you to do at your job? So I'm kind of basically everything that they asked me so far to this point to do at my job, we're going to implement it in this project. And then here we go. Lucky, I want to learn MongoDB just to get familiar with databases, and then I will try to learn MySQL. So the more traditional way would be is to start with a MySQL first. And I don't know if you saw you could easily set up a Strapi backend with a PostgreSQL server. And I don't know if you saw me share the video that I shared before from one of my other channels on how to do that. But I would say starting with Postgres, it's a little bit harder. The reason with MongoDB, it's way easier to get started because you could host it on a cloud, on Atlas, and you could just point your application to it. But in terms of being job ready, you're more likely to be working at a company which uses some sort of SQL type of database. So I would start with that first. And I'll go ahead and I'll link that intro video, how you could set up Strapi with your locally with PostgreSQL to start kind of working on it, and that way you'll be more prepared. So definitely learn PostgreSQL, in my opinion, first, and then learn and do one project utilizing.
Today we are going to look
utilizing MongoDB. So so I have this other tutorial channel that I only put stuff in here that I'm like, okay, people are going to ask me this question many times. So let me make one video that I could just share whenever people ask me, how do you set up Strapi with PostgreSQL? This is a way to do it. So I'll share this video again if you haven't seen it. I think I shared it last time, but you guys could check it out. But definitely working on PostgreSQL first and then MongoDB. Unless you have a particular reason why you want to use MongoDB. If it's because like that's what everybody else is using in their tutorials, that could be a good reason, but is that what everybody's using at their job? And so if you're looking to get hired, learn the technology. I've worked at 3 different places. First position I had was a WordPress developer. That's powered by PHP and MySQL database. So if I needed to make changes in the database, I needed to know how to be able to query those things in the MySQL table. My second job was working for a medical company, Versa Suite, and it was a huge project. Hospital, EHR, whatever. They did everything, pretty much everything. But regardless, their database was SQL. So I needed to be able to, again, be familiar with SQL to be able to do my day-to-day activities. Because when I make a change in the front end, even though I wasn't the full back-end developer at the time, I needed to be able to look up those changes in the table using the Windows SQL server, whatever the thing they use. I don't normally use Windows at work. I had to. So you need to be familiar with SQL. And now my new job where I work for this financial company, we're using PostgreSQL, which is SQL-based database. And the reason why they're very popular is because they're relational data tables, which allow you to do a lot of things that MongoDB can't do. And there's certain cases you wouldn't use MongoDB because Postgres makes more sense. And obviously there are cases where MongoDB makes more sense. But generally in a lot of the companies that you're going to work at, the first thing you're going to probably work with is going to be an SQL data table and base. And that's what I would say, do that. That's like the longest answer I could give somebody. But damn. Anyway, that's the answer. Chris, I finally started a personal project. I feel like I'm learning way more than I did with course, plus the way more rewarding and fun. The only thing is design always looks outdated. My tips, any tips on websites? And yeah, just like I mentioned before, what I do is literally go onto ThemeForest and find what I want. And I just use roughly, I don't copy it exactly, but I make it based on the layout they have. And by the way, I want to say congratulations working on your own personal project. And exactly what you said, that you learn more than you did courses. 100%. Your knowledge, and by the way, it's going to be hard because you're going to be making more mistakes. You're going to have to Google more stuff, and you're going to look more things and read more documentation, spend more time in Stack Overflow, and getting started will be difficult. But as you get into a group of things, it is more rewarding, and you're 100% going to learn more. So I applaud you for doing that. You're going to make so much more progress. And like I showed before, using something like ThemeForest to go and just look up whatever stuff you want to do. So I'll use ThemeForest again, just to kind of showcase here. So for instance, for one of my websites, I needed to build a dashboard, and I suck at dashboards. I'm not sure how to make them. And so you could look up literally dashboard templates, and I'm like, what is this? Let's see, find a pretty one. That dashboards, they're dashboards, but let's see. So you're going to be using a dashboard, so you just go look up a dashboard in ThemeForest, and be okay, I want a dark layout, I want the left toolbar, and you just watch the preview. What the hell am I? Oh, look at that. They even have they have dark mode and light mode. But look, and you just basically use this as inspiration, and you could make it look kind of like this, but slightly different. And as you could see, look at this table. My table that I made for my Codepen project looks very similar to this. I wonder why does it look similar? But maybe because I use this as inspiration. And so this is what I would recommend, is basically using something like this, or using and also when you're writing your CSS, use the power of Bootstrap to allow you to kind of create a lot of this stuff out of the box, and then just add custom CSS to make it look slightly different. But that's what I do, is I would look up for inspiration, and that's what I do. There's nothing wrong with that. I'm not a UX UI designer, I'm a developer, and so that's what I focus on. Chad has a question. Does the project bug tracker include things like Jest or testing library? Probably not. I'm not sure. You can. So the person that I just spoke to who just got hired, she did not know how to do any testing, and she didn't know any TypeScript. All she knew was HTML, React, and JavaScript. And she was able to get hired even though her company does use TypeScript and does use Jest. And so basically what the companies will do, then like, hey, he knows HTML, JavaScript, and React, good enough. When we hire them, he's gonna have to, or she's gonna have to learn TypeScript and Jest, and you're gonna learn it at your job. And because you're gonna be doing this 8 hours a day, your learning process is going to be faster. So here's the thing: if you don't have 2 to 3 projects in your portfolio, don't bother learning about testing at the moment, because it is something you will learn eventually, and you're going to learn organically when it's a requirement. So you have to understand that in a lot of places it's not a requirement. In all 3 companies I worked for, we did not do any testing with Jest. We did manual testing, and then we had QA people that would do the testing for us. So it's not a requirement. And so if you don't know HTML, CSS, JavaScript, React, and you haven't built 2 to 3 good projects that you feel are hire ready, meaning someone's going to look at it and be like, holy crap, you hired, then no point for you to learn testing, because otherwise it's just taking time away from the most important things. So if you learn how to run testing but you don't have a portfolio that looks amazing, you're not going to be able to get a job, you know. And so that's very important to remember. Thank you for the explanation, but I don't even know for what is Strapi and Postgres used for, and what it has to do with MySQL. Can you explain this in a few words? Yeah, so I'll use this as an example here. Let me share my screen. Did I close my project I've been running? Hold on a second. So here's my front-end application, right? And this data here, it's coming from a backend. And MySQL, SQL, Postgres SQL, it's the same thing. It's all SQL. So they're just different kind of flavors of it. And some of them have different or not as extensive functionality, but it's all the same. You use SQL query language to query data. And so when you're creating websites, you could hard code this data, right? But then that's not useful at all, because if someone were to update this and add a additional data point here or delete something, you want to make sure that when this application is refreshed or loaded, this changes. And so Strapi is a way for you to create a backend very easily. And so if I go to localhost, I think I have it running, not here. I have it running 337, I think. So Strapi, it basically creates an API for you automatically, and it creates this user interface for you to be able to not have to create stuff from scratch. You could customize and create stuff from scratch with Strapi. Yes, you can, but it allows you to basically very easily create an API that you could consume, and this API is connected to a database. So whenever I add a new, let's say I have projects here. So let's say I add a new project. We call it test project. Test. We're gonna put, let's use, I'm not gonna upload another picture. I'll just use the same picture I have. And LC allows me to add, all this stuff easily here. Then I click save, I click publish. And so now this has been published to my data table that is connected to Strapi. And then whenever I go to my website, I have to restart it though. Hold on a second. And let's see, once it restarts, you see now we have that 4th item. So this is a dynamic website because we're able to make the data changes in our database, or I should say we're able to make changes in our API on our back end. And if you didn't use Strapi, you would spend 2 years or so, a year and a half, learning how to create an API from scratch. So for me, Strapi for front-end developers is an easy way to create a simple API that you could use to build out all the functionality for your front-end application. And then when you do decide to go into full stack development, you could take out Strapi and replace it with your own backend. And then just to kind of show you where the data table lives. And if the video I shared in the comments will teach you how to set this up, by the way. I think my damn it, search PG admin. And so with the setup that I showed you, you'll be able to set up Strapi, and you'll be able to set up the, let me share the full screen. And you'll be able to set up Postgres locally, which is your data table. And this will allow you to practice. I know it's like, I don't know my own password. Come on. And it'll allow you to set up instances. Damn it, they asked me for too many passwords. And I type it wrong again with my fat fingers. And basically, I think it's this one. I don't remember. You'll have your own local instance of the database running on your computer, and you'll be able to, like for instance, you know how we in our Strapi application added that additional post? You'll be able to add it here. And this is not the right table. Maybe, yep, that makes sense. Maybe it's this one, Strapi API, schemas, tables. Again, this is going to be super confusing right now, but just think of the big picture. So we added a project, correct? And so I'm able to go and see, I guess I have to click here, first 100 rows, and you'll be able to see that data in the data table. So remember we added in our, let me switch back here. I know this is confusing, and it is going to be confusing. You just have to kind of practice. So in Strapi here, we created our project and we added it here. When we created in Strapi, it added that data to our data table, and you could see this fourth entry here is the data entry that we entered. Now, this data lives in our data table. Whenever from our front end we make a request to our API, we're retrieving this data from the data table. Our Strapi API is serving it via JSON to our front end application, and we're able to populate our application with that data. And so, and the way and best way to learn about it, in my case for beginners, is to use Strapi and PostgreSQL, because it's very easy. You don't have to create the backend yourself. And I'll show you here an example here in code. And this is that application that I showed you where we added that project, and we have a project section here. Hold on a second, it's not the project section. Hold on, let me see here. Pages, API here in index page. Here we go. And featured projects, this here, we're basically making a request to our API. We're using GraphQL here, but it doesn't matter. And what this does, it returns that data from our API, and that allows us to use it in our project. So again, there's a lot of stuff. If you guys have questions about more technical stuff, like definitely ask away, but you know, it could get pretty complex fast, especially if you're a beginner, but that's okay. That's why I started, by the way, doing that Tuesday night stream at 7 p.m. Eastern time, is to allow us to spend more time and answer your questions. So yes, we're working on a React project there. It's the project that we're going to continue working, but whatever questions you asked on that stream, I'm going to answer and try to walk you through. But give it a try. I did post that video in the comments, how to set up Strapi with Postgres locally. Like, play around with it. You're not gonna break it. It's an easy way to do it. And I've been talking so long, I totally missed the super best, the most amazing live coder ever. If you guys never followed Dev Mentor, he is super amazing. I took a lot of privates with him to improve my coding. And I suggest if you want to see some awesome tutorials, check out his channel. He does a lot of great stuff. Yep, and so have the React developers fan count. Yeah, funny. Let's see here. Let's see here. At people chat, is there any sort of checklist for when you are employable? Yeah, actually, that'll be like a good question for Dev Mentor too, because you are definitely been around for a long time. You've been coding forever, bro, and you have so much experience. Like, that would be like a great video for you to do, a checklist of what you need to do to get hired. 100%. Yeah, this is hilarious. Can you code in your tools the tools the job wants live in front of someone and Google what you don't know and solve things? Then you make the bare minimum. And this is 100% true. But the reason why I laugh, because that's much harder to do than that statement says. But honestly, he puts it very well. If you could code with your tools that the job requires, and if you're able to Google stuff that you don't know, which you will, and solve the things, yes, you got the bare minimum. And I think that's where I'm at. I'm definitely at the bare minimum. And that's another thing why coding like that. Dev Mentor, you bring out a lot of great points. When you create your own personal project, things will break. You will be forced to learn about debugging your code, and which is 80% of coding, 100%. And tutorials don't teach you that. And yeah, how am I doing tonight? I'm doing good, a bit tired. I gave up coffee because it's been wrecking my sleep. I haven't been sleeping for weeks. And so it's been kind of like crazy. And I missed the hat. I got to get the hat. And dude, we got to get you on another live stream. We got to do, like, we should do something together once in a while. Maybe not like weekly, but like once a month. Because I had an amazing blast talking with you. And I had so much fun. By the way, I don't know if you saw my demo in Next.js. It's hilarious. We argued about when people should learn React and Next.js. Well, I still think people should learn React first, like create React app and Next.js. But not sure if you saw. This is, hold on a second here. This is gonna be right up your alley. This is Tailwind and Next.js. Look at that, and it's pretty right out of the box. It's amazing. So yeah, Next.js is awesome. But anyway. Yep, and let's get the likes up 100%. Smash the like button. Brian, thumbs up all around. Man, I've been slacking on the chat here. What's the equivalency of a bachelor's degree when speaking of a web dev position? It's a very interesting question. I think you can't compare yourself that way, because just the fact that you have a bachelor degree doesn't mean that you met all the requirements to get hired. There's plenty of people with bachelor's degrees that don't get hired unless they learn all these other things that they have to learn. They might be pretty good at computer sciencey stuff, and maybe there's a place definitely for what they learn at school. But there's also a lot of stuff in terms of building projects that a lot of computer science students, they have to still go through the process and build their portfolio themselves and demonstrate those hireable skills, like being able to build something themselves from scratch. And believe it or not all computer science students with a BA could do that, which I was shocked, but apparently it's a thing. Yep. I gave up coffee too. It wrecks your calcium intake. Dude, oh my God. I used to drink 9 cups of coffee daily at least. I've been suffering for 4 days with these amazing headaches and not able to sleep because of caffeine withdrawal. I didn't know caffeine could wreck you with such a hard withdrawal symptoms. I now drink decaf tea, by the way. Damn, that was insane. Thanks, really appreciate it. And coding F30, what's the difference between React and React Native? React Native basically allows you to create native per se applications for iOS and Android apps. And what's cool, this is the reason I come back to Strappy. And again, you don't have to use Strappy. I use Strappy because I'm lazy and it allows me to create a backend API super fast. But the cool thing about Strappy, like I was saying before, on our Tuesday night stream, I'm working through a React application, and then I'm working through Next.js application eventually, and then we're going to use React Native application. And all of those, we won't have to recreate an API. We'll just use the same API we created with Strappy. So we'll have a headless CMS, Strappy, powering 3 different applications to throw in our portfolio. And by the way, all those things I just mentioned, they're going to take a long time to build, because for that stream, I'm not pre-planning what I build or how I think about stuff. I want to make sure that you see me struggle live. And for 2 reasons. Number one, I want to make sure that you see the reality of what it's like coding live, especially someone at my level. And you'll see that I will get stuck. I will look stuff up. I will bang my head against the desk on live. And also because I want to make sure that you see the thought process that you go through when building stuff from scratch. I don't want to come up with something and then show you how to do it. By the way, Dev Mentor is so underrated in terms of his channel. He's amazing at that, of exactly what I just mentioned, exactly the thing that I want to get good at. His ability to live code. And yeah, sometimes he gets stuck, but he'll figures out things really quickly, because number one, his understanding of the programming language is amazing, and number two, he's knows exactly what to look for, because he understands what he needs for the solution he needs to get. Because at the end of the day, you can't know everything, right? Yeah, maybe in React we know something, but somebody will be like, well, how you do this in Vue.js? And so yeah, we'll have to look it up how to implement it in Vue.js. But the point is, live coding and coding stuff from scratch is super important, and that is why you guys, I can't stress this enough. If you're gonna follow 2 channels, follow Dev Mentor Live, and then of course follow my channel, because there's plenty of good channels, by the way. I don't want to say there's not a lot of channels, but I have not seen people live code like he has and answer questions on the cuff of what he's doing on the screen as he does. Really amazing. And Brian, caffeine is legit drug. When my dad first quit, he would get heart. Yeah, I might have probably had those too. It's insane. I'm just glad that I think I'm 4 days in. I think my headaches are subsiding. I think I'm there, and I think I'm only gonna probably never drink coffee. I don't say never, but I'm definitely not gonna go back to maybe just drink decaf coffee, even though it's probably not as healthy as caffeinated coffee. But anyway, guys, man, it's amazing to have Dev Mentor Live here joining in. He's amazing. I definitely need to do some live streams with you again. Always fun, always amazing. Thanks for all of you guys who jumped in to watch the stream. Everybody coming in, Lucky, Hanzala, Byron, Logix, everybody, I'm kind of erased a bunch of comments already, so can't see who else was here. But damn, those good times, amazing times. If you guys have any questions, let me know. Let's, for the next 5 minutes, ask me anything. And if not, we could, end it here. It was an amazing hour and a half. you know. It was a lot of fun, as always. I got a desk. It's amazing. I haven't had a desk for like 2 years. I used my like bedroom drawer where I have my underpants to put my computer on and type and code. See, it doesn't mean much. And here's a great question. I love it. Zake asks, how many hours a day would you recommend beginners put learning web development to change careers? The more, the better. And I know everybody's different. And I know everybody has like hard time. I would say in the minimum, like if you do an hour a day and you have to keep it consistent every day. Thanks. I was taking the long way to answer the question. Thanks, my friend. 8 hours a day, my friend. Stay frosty. 100%, but let me go. Like I was trying to let him easy. So here's the thing. Everybody's different. The bare minimum, it's like if you have to start with 1 hour a day, but just so you build a habit that every day, like you're spending like an hour a day coding. Before I answer this question, and let's say you don't have 8 hours because you have a job or whatever. Let's say you have 6, 4 hours, whatever it is. Number one thing that you have to understand is that you need to have daily coding practice. I almost swore. You cannot code inconsistently. You cannot do it just on the weekends. I play golf just on the weekends. No, I don't. I suck at golf. Golf's like whatever. Like if you do anything on the weekends, you're not a professional. You're a weekend warrior, and that's where that comes from. You need to code every day, Monday through Sunday. Whatever. God doesn't let you code on Sunday or Saturday, Monday through Friday. And it has to be consistent. You could start with 1 hour, but if you could put 8 hours a day, then you put 8 hours a day. If you put 4 hours a day, you put 4 hour days. But bare minimum for me is that you need to do like 2 to 4 hours, bare minimum of coding daily if you want to make progress. If you could do 4 hours, do 4 hours. I know with people that have kids, have families, it's very difficult. What you do, wake up 1 hour earlier, code for like an hour, and then go to bed 1 hour later and code for 1 hour at night. That's your 2 hours. But 2 hours a day, like that's 10 hours a week if it's Monday through Friday. You're going to make some progress, but it might take you, 6 months to a year or more or longer following that schedule. You really need to make sure that, like, let me say this to you. I used to do Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu was my life. And you're like, what the hell is this guy talking about? What's Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu? I was the best at Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I was training literally 10 hours a day, every day training. I was a really good instructor. I was really good in terms of, my skill as a black belt. When I started to code to make transition to development, I quit Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu because that's 10 hours a day or even do a jiu-jitsu for fun. For us, that was a waste of my time because to switch to a new career, I basically made it in my head. I'm no longer a jiu-jitsu person. I'm a developer. I do things like a developer does. Majority of my day is spent thinking about code, doing code, studying code. I read code books. Look, here's a book on code, right? Okay, I have another book, Clean Code. Yeah, code books. Here's Think Like a Programmer, talking about programming logic. Here's Algorithms with Pictures because I'm an idiot book. Here's, I don't know, a lot of people recommended this book. I honestly did not read this book yet. Hopefully it's good. Pragmatic Programmer. Then I got this book right here, Clean Architecture by Uncle Bob. Probably don't need this book. Just read his Clean Code book that I just showed. Then I have Code Complete because I need a heavy doorstop. You know what I'm saying? This is, by the way, I love JavaScript. I love functional programming. So I have Composing Software. This is about writing functional JavaScript. But the point that I'm saying is that I gave up everything to pursue code. Is it extreme? I was 35 when I started to learn. I didn't get a job until I was 39. Passed from 38 or 37, 38, 39, I took it serious. I quit jiu-jitsu. I gave up all the necessary stuff, and I tried to spend and code as much as I can. I know it's the longest answer that I possibly gave. 8 hours a day, like Dev Mentor said, if you can't do it, do it. But realistically, what I would say, if you could only do 2 hours every day, that's what you do. But in my case, and in your case, if you want to make a difference and you want to get hired, you become a developer. And being a developer is not something you do, it's a lifestyle. You live it, you breathe it, you be it. And this is kind of, I was saying, like, if this is not something you think you could commit to, it's going to be very hard being a developer. There's no part-time developers. It's impossible to do. And Jose's jumping in saying hello. So that was a great question, Chad. Thank you for asking that. That was Zeke that asked Chad's questions here. Are web dev salaries going up due to inflation, or are they remaining about the same? I think that's a great question. I think salaries might go up. I feel like to stay competitive, especially in web development. But I'm not 100% sure, but I would assume a lot of good companies that want to keep good talent, they want to make sure that they have competitive salaries. And so there definitely will go up with inflations, because if they don't, why should developers get less money? They're gonna I think they're definitely gonna go up, because companies have to compete for best talent. And even as junior developers, you guys are gonna get very competitive salaries. And that's a good question about inflation. That's something that inflation is gonna be going up for sure. And so kind of this idea of why I became a developer is because, number one, I wanted to have a job that's going to be COVID proof. Like, not allowed to say COVID because YouTube will demonetize and whatever as soon as you say it. It's so insane. But the vids, I wanted to kind of bulletproof myself against something like that, because no matter if we have more of that or something else comes on, I know that I could be employed from home. I know that I could work remotely. Number two, the reason I went into development is because you could get to high income, 80, 90, 100K within 3 to 5 years if you put in your dues. I don't know any other position outside being a business owner that will allow you to make that much money in that minimum amount of time. Also, majority of the knowledge you could learn on your own as a self-taught developer. And so for me, that's why I did it, because I wanted to make sure that not only I have vid-proof kind of work, because I could work remotely, so I don't care if there's whatever virus happens. Number two, I wanted to be in a field which has some of the highest income, so I could earn more money, so I could have more money to invest, right? And speaking of this, inflation's 100% is going to be going up. And so the best thing you guys could do, number one, is get out of debt if you can. If you don't have debt, it'll be much easier. I understand it's very difficult. I've been in debt most of my life. It just past 4 years I've been out of debt. It took me like 20 years to pay off my debt from college. It was retarded. But if you could be debt-free, it's amazing. And then, like, I'm not an investor, so I can't help you in that. But definitely, probably should invest money, because if you keep a lot of your money in the bank, again, I'm an idiot, so this is nonsense talking. Inflation will make your money lose value if it's just in the bank. So, like, investing in stocks or whatever, you got to ask a professional. I'm not a professional. If you listen for me for financial advice, you're going to lose all your money. But what I'm saying is that I want to make more money so I could invest more money to fight inflation. That was the basic gist of it. I don't remember if I said hello to Jose already. Hey, Jose, good to see you. Raven Webb, following your channel, keep up the good work. I've been building WordPress websites for a few years now without any coding skills. Just started learning how go. Hey, that's awesome, amazing. You could make decent money with WordPress, especially if you don't mind selling and
how to, find clients and stuff like that. That's amazing. How to stop smoking, IQOS. I don't know what IQOS is. What is IQOS? Let me Google that. IQOS. See, I'm an idiot. I don't know everything. IQOS. Oh, how to stop smoking heated tobacco products. Dude, listen, my smoking story, I don't know if I ever told you. So, I probably told this story. So I actually quit smoking at 10 years old. Funny story. So when I was 8 years old, I was walking home from school and a bunch of bullies, they caught me. They put a bunch of cigarettes in my mouth, like 20 of them, lit them all on fire and laughed, had a good go at me. And then I coughed like an idiot. I ran home crying. I get home, I'm like, Mom, I'm crying. Like, you're not going to believe it. These bullies, they took me and they put cigarettes in my mouth and they lit them on fire and they beat me. And my mom, she did not want any of that story because I was such a liar back then. She was like, you're lying. You're full of crap. That didn't happen. You tried smoking. You're punished. She beat me because in Russia, people were able to beat their kids. It was like the thing that you were allowed to do. And so I got punished. And so out of spite, to spite my mother, I would basically, 9 years old now, would walk around and pick up unfinished cigarettes. I'm surprised I didn't get sick. And I would smoke. And then when I came to America, 10 years old, I would be smoking. And I remember some grandpa comes to me, he's like, you shouldn't smoke, whatever. And I was like 10 years old, like, go after yourself. Stupid, because I was a bad kid. You know what I mean? And so at 11, I quit smoking. So you just have to make a decision to give up like tobacco or whatever. I used to do a lot of bad stuff. I'm just going to leave it at that. And you just need to prioritize what's more important to you, and addiction is a real thing. So to say that you could just stop, it's really hard. So I don't know what the advice is. So, some people they could just put things down, and some people they need like the 12-step program. And I have a very addicting personality, so I'm the worst person to give advice on how to quit. Let's see here. There you go. I'll be 40 next year. Next year. Well, happy birthday when it gets there. Don't cry a lot. It's okay. It's not the end of the world. By the way, like what I keep saying to myself, 40 is like the new 30. That's basically what I keep telling myself. I'm like 41 and I'm basically like, damn, I'm 9 years away from 50. That's a scary thought. And I'm just like, damn. And that's why I tell like kids, don't do drugs. Don't do bad things when you're young. It's going to cost you your life. So I'm finally like getting my life in order in my 40s, which is insane. In my like 20s, it was a waste. I wasted my 20s away. Like there's no positive, like from 20 to 29, probably nothing positive happened in my life due to my own actions. So here's the thing, like if you're younger, older, like whatever, like you'll be able to switch careers. You'll be able to start a new path. And like, so don't think about it. Am I too old? Am I too late? Am I too young? Am I too whatever? If this is something you want to do, just do it. You'll definitely be able to get it done. This is a great question. What I would say, like check out the reviews on Glassdoor, but more importantly, if you do get your interview, make sure you ask about like, their culture, and you ask about like what is their onboarding process and what they do, what do they do to help their newer developers to make sure they succeed. And based on how they answer, you would know if that's a company you want to work for or not. But a lot of times, if you read the Glassdoor reviews, there's going to be some disgruntled employees who's going to tell you the truth about what it's like working at a certain company. I'm not going to do reviews for my company that I work. I think I was the only one that wrote the 5-star review, and that's to troll other people looking to get hired there. But everybody else did one 1-star review. I agree with you about balancing a family life and changing careers. It's very difficult right now. I can hardly code. Yeah, like that is very difficult. When you have a family, it's no longer you. it's your wife, your kids, and you have to make sure that you're doing the right thing. And sometimes even switching careers might not be the right thing, because if you have to take a pay cut because you're starting in something new, it might not be something that's good or beneficial for your family, and you might not be in a position to do that. So it is very difficult. I give a lot of credit to people that switch careers, like when they're like full-time dad, and they do their thing with their family, because you think like it's like you have free time. You don't have any free time in that case, and you're literally cutting into your sleep, and you're doing what you can, and it is very hard to find that balance. So I applaud anybody in that situation. I was lucky because one of my mistakes in my life was having my daughter when I was 19, and so now she's 23. Like for me, like I don't have a small child in my house that I constantly have to take care of, and also I got divorced. Not saying that's a strategy you should follow. So I did, and being older and not having a lot of these responsibilities, it did make it a lot easier for me to learn to code and make a transition. I don't want to deny that and tell you that that's not a fact. But at the same time, there's a lot of people that make the change. I knew someone who went to medical school, switching careers, which was insane. And I was like, if that dude could become a doctor, I could become a developer. And I wrote him a letter and be like, dude, watching you, like, he used to, back then I used to have a jiu-jitsu school, and he used to bring his kids to karate and jiu-jitsu. And the dad would literally study while his kid was taking class, and then he would work nights, and on certain days he would come to class to like pass out waiting for his kid. And I was just like, this dude literally has no free time, and he's just taking care of his family, working like graveyard shift, and going to school during the day to become a doctor. And I was blown away, and I was like, wow, no excuses. And yeah, my mom is definitely a badass. Dude, oh god, my whole family, they're badasses. My dad, like, so you know how like kids talk back to your parents? I was like probably like around 8 or 9. I'm sitting at dinner table, and my mom's sitting next to me, and my dad's sitting next to me. We're eating dinner, very nice, and I call my mom a bitch. And next thing, without like a blink, my dad smacked me so hard, I see should've, because that's what I needed, that I fell off the chair, probably got a concussion. I've never called my mom that word my entire life. I called her that once. I'm not saying that smacking kids is a good way to teach them, but in my case, it was definitely what I needed. So definitely respect your parents, guys. Yeah. All my money in my 30s, alcohol, women, and cocaine. The rest I wasted. Listen, you know, I like that story because, like, I would have never guessed that was a fact watching you on your YouTube channel talking about, and the fact that you were able to accomplish a lot of stuff. And I know a little bit more about your story, which is amazing, and like, that's what people got to realize. There's, at the end of the day, is what price are we willing to pay to make the change that we desire? And I've seen people that ruin their life beyond belief or made mistakes. I made mistakes, but in my family, I have someone who literally was like, everybody disowned that person. They're literally in the hospital about to die in their 20s because of their drug overuse and like whatever. They burnt every relationship. Like, I would not go visit her in the hospital because I was like, man, I don't even want to associate with her. And my mom was the only one that went. And she, like, at that time she was about to die, but she had a little daughter. At her time, the daughter was like 2 years old, Michelle. And something clicked in her head, and she's like, I can't die. I need to provide a good future for my daughter. And she went from nothing, being like a homeless drug addict, heroin addict, whatever you want. And she was able to find and prioritize things in her life that were stronger enough than her addiction. And she cleaned herself up. Now she works at a very high corporate woman, make way over 150K a year, has a huge house, has amazing family. Her daughter, by the way, has no idea that her mother been through this. And anybody that would meet her right now would never guess that that's something she's been through. So the point is that, yeah, things are hard, things are difficult, but at the end of the day, we just have to understand and come up with this, like, priority. Like, do we prioritize like the pain that we are going through, or we prioritize like the work that we need to do to get ahead? So yeah, I mean, everybody could do it. So actually, just talking to you guys, I feel bad about me wanting to be lazy and feel like a quitter and try to quit. I'm a big baby, big sissy. Like, I gotta suck it up and be like, you know what, I'm just gonna go hit it hard, continue going. By the way, if you haven't smashed the like button, smash the like button. It's there for you guys to smash, not because you want to smash it because of me sitting in front of you here, but you want to smash for all the amazing questions these amazing people in the chat are asking. Look at this youngster over here. I started learning at age 30 and now I'm nearly 33. I know HTML, CSS, JavaScript, React, GitHub, and some Redux context, Figma, Photoshop, Node.js, and some consuming APIs. Yeah, you got to start like if getting jobs at this point. Like, and if you don't have a job yet, and I hope you do, then it comes down to tweaking your resume and tweaking your portfolio. But those were my resume stopped me from getting a job for the longest time until I rewrote it. But man, that's awesome. And you're 33, you're still young. I wish to be 33 right now. Man, seriously. This is a trick question. At what age did I come down? Like, literally, like, until I met my fiance, like, probably like 3 years ago. I came down 3 years ago. And I don't know if you guys saw Hungover, that movie. Like, after I went through my divorce, like 4 years ago, like, I took a trip to Thailand, and literally, like, my point was, like, if I live through this trip, I'm going to try and give life a second chance. And if I don't, then hey, it was never meant to be. And so my first, like, trip to Thailand was basically Hungover times 50. I'm amazed that I was able to come back. But then I realized that, like, yeah, like, life will always smack you down. You will always have an opportunity to lose something. But at the end of the day, within your mind, you always have this capacity to get back on your feet. Maybe you're not going to get everything you want, but you could still start, depending on the hole that you dig yourself. It takes time to climb out, but we have the capacity in here to be able to do what it takes to improve our life, change ourselves, and get to where we need to go. And that's one of the reasons I like coding, because you could become an amazing developer and you could go to like another country. I'm just using this as an example, because and be like, I have nothing to declare. I don't have no baggage. I don't have nothing. I don't even have a laptop. And based on what you know here, you could go and find a job. You know what I mean? And that's amazing, because learning to kind of code, you could lose your money, but because you have a high in demand skill and you're good at it, you could make that money again. And that's kind of why I do it and why I like it. So yeah, I came down like a couple of years ago, 3 years ago. One thing I have to say is that you have no energy, you won't be able to work on your goals. Stay as healthy as you can is the key. 100% you want to be healthy, and that's kind of I alluded earlier today. I'm not sure when you jumped in. I talked about how I was depressed for a little bit, and I was very low energy, not motivated, wasn't doing much, kind of like lazy as hell, just depressed. And I started like to go for walks to kind of get my level of energy up, get those endorphins going. Get that serotonin levels up just so I could feel better, because your mood definitely will dictate how much you do and how much you accomplish. So guys and gals and everybody who joined me today, thank you so much for coming on today. We're hitting the 2-hour mark. I thank you all. Like, you guys make this stream possible. By the way, if you haven't smashed the smash button, it's probably too late, but if you want to smash it at the last minute, you can. But you guys are what builds this community, and I'm just so happy to be part and be able to have such great and amazing conversation. So thank you all for coming and chilling with me on a Saturday night. I really appreciate it. Really love all of you guys. Love the conversations we have. I do a coding Tuesday, 7 p.m. Central Time. live stream. If you guys want to see what I'm doing, it's kind of off the cuff. It's probably boring. It's probably a lot of me messing up and making mistakes. But if you guys have some interest and want to ask coding related questions, that's a great place to do it. But with that being said, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you so much for coming on and chilling with me. I really appreciate it. In the times like this, like, believe it or not, you give a lot of positive vibes to me, and just knowing that I'm part of your community, it gives me motivation to continue making these videos, continue to chatting with you, and continue to go on my coding journey. So anyway, thank you all for stopping by, and I'll see you guys in the next stream. Yep, and definitely see you on Tuesday. Hope you're going to be full rested and ready to go. Yeah, 100%. I gave up that coffee, been sleeping like really nice and really well. And so, yeah, man, thanks a lot, guys, and have a good night.